Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to be here with Benoit and to have the honor of having a conversation. Benoit, it's fair to say that France has in many ways been at the forefront of exploring the potential for existing and new enforcement tools while advancing our understanding of how to best reconcile them and use them to promote competition. And of course, this is particularly true in the digital space. One way of thinking of the three sources of authorities is, we have in very broad terms, we have traditional tools, we have surgical, regulatory tools, and then we have broad ex-ante regulation. Benoit, I was hoping that you could perhaps just set the stage for us about why it's important for us to be exploring a range of tools to address anti-competitive conduct.
So good morning, Melanie. Good morning, everyone. And before answering your question, let me thank the CNMC and the ICN colleagues for such a magnificent setup and organization. And being in Barcelona provides us with an apt metaphor, I guess. I was yesterday at the Sagrada Familia Cathedral, and when you look at the Sagrada Familia, it's beautiful, and it's still under construction. So it's a little bit like competition law, It's beautiful and it's under construction. And that's what we're going to discuss this morning. So yes, I very much believe that we need a range of instruments to address unilateral practices, particularly by digital players. We need to use and maybe to try to use in a new way when we can traditional competition instruments, and we can come back to that. We need regulation. We might need what I would call surgical regulatory instruments to address some issues that cannot be very well addressed through competition law. So interoperability, I think, is a good example. Of course, you can impose interoperability on one particular gatekeeper, on one particular service. But if you want broad interoperability across the market, that's a regulatory discussion, and you need a lot of cooperation with the industry. You need to set standards and so on. That's regulatory business. So it's a different world. And you need ex-ante regulation on some issues, and that's what the DMA is for in Europe. And the art of enforcement nowadays is really about combining these instruments, identifying complementarities between the instruments, and maybe I shouldn't say leveraging, but identifying how these instruments can support each other, and what's the best set of instruments to address a particular case, which is what we've done in our practice at the French authority. So we've used combinations of penalties and settlements. We've used a combination of penalties and commitments, and we've used interim measures whenever we saw immediate harm to the economy. And so the question is really how to pick the right instrument in a particular set of circumstances.
Well, so picking up on that art rather than science, which I think is an apt way of looking at it, how do you see the different spheres of regulatory authority, coexisting, interoperating, if you will, and in particular, for example, how flexible can Article 2 rather be in addressing conduct, perhaps even in the mergers space?
So our experience with Article 102, that is abuse of dominance, has been actually very fruitful. And we often hear in conferences or enforcers meeting that, Article 102 has become difficult to implement, that there are questions around the economic test underlying Article 102 and so on, which is correct. But we still see a lot of value in using Article 102 to address dominance on digital markets. Actually, nearly 1/3 of our antitrust or conduct cases last year were based on 102, or the French equivalent of 102 under French law. And when you see recent evolutions in Europe, you see that Article 102 can actually be used in new ways. We've seen for instance, we've seen the Towercast decision of the European Court of Justice reminding us that Article 102 could be used also to deal with mergers in case of a merger reinforcing entrenchment on the market, which we had forgotten in a way, and that's really something that we need to be able to use. So probably in terms of priorities and in terms of the pecking order of instruments, probably that will be after regular merger review and after using Article 22 of the merger regulation whenever possible. But in some cases, Article 102 will be the right avenue also to deal with mergers, and that's new. So it also tells you that there are new ways to use Article 102, which can be also approved and even suggested by courts.
So picking up on that EU dimension, how do you see the DMA, specifically and in practical terms, working with, member state initiatives, be they, regulatory or traditional enforcement action?
So, okay, I guess there is a positive narrative, which is that everything is going to be fine because, there is lots of complementarity between competition law and the DMA, and will be entitled under national law to support the Commission. By the way, in France, the National Assembly voted the legal provisions to allow us to support the Commission in implementing the DMA just 2 days ago. So that's really being now prepared. And there will be a lot of positive interaction between the DMA, which will focus on a specific number of players and a specific number of services, core platform services, and competition law, which will do everything else, basically, either at national level or European level. That's a positive narrative. We have to be honest and acknowledge that we still have to draw the exact lines between the DMA and competition law, and that will require some work between national competition authorities and the Commission, which we've started. So we need to delineate, really, what will belong to national competition law. And I think the Commission will need to take a stance on how proactive they want to be, how forward-looking they want to be in changing the DMA. And one good example is cloud services. Cloud services have not been designated as core platform services for good reasons, because the numbers are not met, and so there are lots of good procedural reasons why they can't be designated today. But if you ask yourself, should they be designated tomorrow, maybe sooner will be better than later. And so that will be a decision for the Commission to take on how fast, how often they want to adjust the DMA. My take would be do it sooner rather than later, because the market is changing very fast around you.
Indeed. So, extending our conversation a little bit, given this audience, and looking at how we've got multiple different agencies around the world looking at these various same activities, sometimes different activities, certainly with different tools and different processes. Do you see a real opportunity here? Do you see more risk than opportunity in terms of this concurrent focus by so many on these issues coming at it from different legal frameworks?
I think international cooperation is of the essence, not only in enforcement, but also when scanning the horizon, because there are so many unknowns. If you take artificial intelligence, which is all around the discussions, in this conference, and we know very little about it. We have to think much deeply about it. We need to put our heads together. We've done it yesterday as agency heads on what are the key questions we want to answer related to artificial intelligence. There are some dimensions where I would be relatively confident that we can build on what we've learned in the digital space, like tying, bundling, economies of scale and scope, vertical integration. We know a lot about that. And we can deploy this knowledge also to deal with artificial intelligence. But think of the consequences artificial intelligence will have on across the industry, across the economy. Artificial intelligence will radically change the way education is being delivered. Health services are being delivered. Any person-to-person services will be changed with huge productivity gains, but also changes in competitive structures. And we know nothing about that. We know nothing. So we really have to get together and build the right analytical program, also interact with scientists, interact with regulators, interact with lawmakers to prepare for this massive change. So it's not only about enforcing competition law as it is today, it's also about preparing for the future.
Well, on that very note, I mean, we are in the right forum here for international engagement and cooperation and collaboration and bringing the best ideas forward. Perhaps, I don't know if you might want to say a word or two on the work that the ICN is doing in terms of putting us in the best position to address these oncoming, enduring, and rapidly changing challenges.
Well, that will be, I guess, discussed in the next sessions, so I don't want to preempt that discussion, but I've been very excited by what the ICN has achieved in the unilateral conduct working group. We had good work on theories of harm, led by JFTC. We had good work on the assessment of dominance, led by DG Comp. We ourselves have been working on interim measures as applied to unilateral conduct. There is a lot more to do. There will be a lot to do with ecosystem theories of harm, which are not only about unilateral conduct, but also about merger review and everything we do, basically. So I'm very confident that we'll remain very busy in the months to come. And the ICN has been a great platform to achieve that.
Well, it's been exciting watching what France has been doing with sort of novel uses of some of the remedies, like interim measures and injunctive powers, fines, and some other ways of getting around these difficult to approach problems in the economy. And I don't know if you want to say a closing word on that and just how maybe we can talk more about it in this forum here at ICN.
No, interim measures certainly have been a way to also to act in an effective way, in a swift way on some markets. We've done it before summer on the online ad verification market with the interim measures against Meta to have Meta open up their partnerships on ad verification, and that has proved very efficient. It also serves a broader purpose, I would say, which is to show that competition enforcement can be quick, can be swift and effective. We often hear that we're coming after the battle when all the fighters are dead already, and there is some truth to it, which is why we also want to have more ex-ante regulation, and we're doing that in Europe with the DMA and with the Data Act, and maybe more to come. But we also want to show that we can use competition enforcement in a very fast manner, and that's what interim measures are about. And we've been lucky in France to have a standard which is somewhat softer than the European standard and allows us to do it in an effective way, and we've been followed by the Court of Appeal so far. So we'll keep doing that.
Yeah, so we saw Commissioner Bassire was, commenting as they brought their case that, there'd been a real first mover example provided by France and some other member states, which is just wonderful. You see people using different tools, being a bit more agile, bringing cases forward, and allowing others to learn, which again is what we're here all to do together.
So I'm not a lawyer by training. I'm an engineer by training, and it's very comforting for me to see that competition enforcement is really engineering. It's really about assembling the right solution, picking from the right toolbox, and assembling tools to deal with particular situations. So that's really it's more an art than a science, and it's really a lot about finding practical solutions.
Well, I think that's a wonderful send off for the panel that's going to follow us now to talk about unilateral conduct more broadly. So thank you so much, Benoit, for being here and allowing me to have this conversation with you.